Long ago, in the ancient times of Treta Yuga, the Lord of the heavens, Surya Dev, the sun god, was married to Sanjna, the divine daughter of Vishwakarma, the celestial architect. It was a sacred and auspicious union. But after their marriage, whenever Surya Dev came close to Sanjna, his intense radiance and blazing energy were too powerful for her to bear. Time passed in this way. In the years that followed, Sanjna gave birth to two divine children, Yama, who became the Lord of Dharma and Justice, and Yamuna, who manifested as the sacred river worshipped for her life-giving waters. Yet Sanjna's heart remained restless. She was unable to endure the mighty brilliance of Surya Dev. At last she made a decision. She would leave the sun's realm for some time and go away to practice penance. Through her austerities, she hoped to gain the strength to one day return and live peacefully by her husband's side. But there was one great challenge. She could not leave her young children alone, nor did she wish Surya Dev to discover that she had departed. Using her divine powers, Sanjna created a duplicate form of herself, a shadow, exactly like her in appearance. This shadow was called Chaya, or Savarna. Sanjna entrusted her children and household duties to Chaya, and then quietly departed to an unknown place for her penance. Surya Dev had no idea of this change. Believing Chaya to be his true wife, he continued his household life with her. Unlike Sanjna, Chaya was not troubled by his blazing radiance, and their life together continued. In time, the children, Yama, Yamuna, and later Vaivaswata Manu, grew into their roles. Yama was given the duty of Dharma and justice. Yamuna flowed as a sacred river bringing life, and Manu was entrusted with guiding humankind. Meanwhile, Surya Dev became increasingly busy with his celestial duties. Left alone, Chaya began to feel an emptiness. She was not truly Sanjna, nor did she receive the love and recognition that Sanjna did. Searching for her own identity and purpose, Chaya resolved to perform intense penance to Lord Shiva. She entered deep meditation, ignoring hunger, thirst, and the burning heat of the sun. Months passed, but she remained unmoved in her devotion. During this time, Chaya conceived a divine child, one destined to have a powerful influence on the universe. At the end of her penance, Lord Shiva himself appeared before her. Pleased with her devotion, he asked her to seek a boon. Chaya bowed and said, "O Lord of Lords, I am only a shadow, a reflection. Bless me with a true existence of my own, with an identity and purpose of my own." Her words carried deep pain, a longing to be recognized beyond just being a substitute. Lord Shiva, pleased with her sincerity, granted her boon and disappeared. After some time, Chaya gave birth to a child, but this child was unlike others. His skin was dark, and in his eyes shone a unique brilliance. For a moment, Chaya was troubled. She wondered, would this child be accepted? Would Surya Dev see him as his own? But then she realized the truth. This child was the fruit of her penance, of the scorching heat she endured, of the strength of her devotion. His dark complexion reflected the trials of his mother, and his inner power came from divine blessings. This child grew to be known as Shani Dev, the Lord of Karma and Justice. Chaya raised Shani with love, knowing in her heart that he was destined for greatness. When Surya Dev returned, Chaya introduced him to their son with pride. She placed the infant in his arms. But Surya Dev was shocked. Seeing the child's dark complexion, his face filled with disbelief and anger. "This cannot be my son," he declared sternly. "I see none of my radiance in him. He does not carry my form or my glow. This child is not mine." With those words, Surya Dev refused to accept Shani and turned away in anger. Chaya was heartbroken. Her sacrifices and penance had resulted in rejection and sorrow. From this moment began a deep rift, a distance between father and son that would shape their destinies. As Surya Dev distanced himself, Chaya devoted herself entirely to her son. Shani Dev, growing under her care, became her only support. From birth, Shani carried immense power, the result of his mother's penance and Lord Shiva's blessings. Along with strength, he inherited an intense nature, a fiery temper, and the pain of being denied acceptance. Even at a young age, Shani displayed extraordinary might. He defeated Gandharvas in battle and even challenged the gods themselves. His anger fueled his strength, which shone through his gaze, his courage, and his unyielding words. But beneath all this was a deeper truth. His anger was born of the rejection he felt from his father. Shani's one burning purpose became clear: to surpass Surya Dev in power and to break his pride. And thus began the story of Shani Dev's strength, his justice, and the long and complex relationship between father and son.
As time passed, the anger inside Shani Dev grew deeper. To bring him some balance, his mother Chaya found a solution. She arranged his marriage with Chitrarath, a gentle, noble, and virtuous young woman. After marriage, Shani Dev's nature became calmer. He began to lean more toward meditation, discipline, and spiritual practice. One day, while Shani Dev was absorbed in deep meditation, his wife Chitrarath came to him and expressed her desire to have a child. But Shani Dev remained silent. Even after repeated requests, he gave no reply. This silence felt like an insult to Chitrarath. Hurt and overcome with sorrow, she spoke words in anger, a powerful curse. From this moment, if you even cast your gaze upon anyone, their destruction will be certain. This curse was extremely strong. It bound the power of Shani Dev's very eyes. When his meditation broke, Shani Dev realized what had happened. He tried to console his wife and calm her heart, but Chitrarath herself was filled with regret, for the curse once spoken could not be taken back. Since the curse was unchangeable, Shani Dev took a vow. From then on, he would always walk with his head lowered, so that his gaze would not harm anyone unintentionally. Soon, the news of this reached across the worlds. When Shukracharya, the teacher of the Asuras, heard of it, he came to Shani Dev along with Rahu, the commander of the Asura forces. Shukracharya advised Shani Dev to use this curse as his greatest weapon against the Devas. But Shani Dev, who always stood on the path of justice, clearly said, "The strength that has come to me will never be used for injustice or selfish gain." With this, he advised Shukracharya and Rahu to leave. Meanwhile, after years of penance, Sanjana had finally gained the ability to withstand the radiance of Surya Dev. One day, she returned from the earth back to Surya Lok. But when she learned that Surya Dev had lived with Chaya, believing her to be Sanjana, and that from her a son Shani had been born, her heart was shaken. She revealed the full truth to Surya Dev, how she had left Chaya in her place and gone for penance on earth. Hearing this, Surya Dev's anger flared. He not only expressed his fury toward Sanjana, but also considered Chaya and Shani as symbols of deception. In his rage, he banished both of them from Surya Nuk. With no place left for them, Chaya and Shani Dev went down to earth and settled in a quiet and beautiful forest. There, Shani Dev lived with his mother, and in that forest he befriended Kakraj, a wise and extraordinary crow. Shani grew deeply attached to Kakraj, and slowly the forest began to feel like home. But destiny had something else in store. Some years later, Suryadev discovered Shani Dev's place of living. Still burning with pride and anger, he unleashed a blazing fire of his divine energy to destroy that forest. Flames spread everywhere. Chaya, being a shadow, managed to escape the fire, but Shani Dev was trapped in the raging blaze. Crying out in anguish, Chaya pleaded, "Is there anyone who can save my son?" Her sorrowful call echoed through the universe. At that moment, Kakraj appeared from the sky. He swooped down swiftly, grasped Shani Dev in his strong claws, and lifted him away from the fire. Kakraj carried Shani Dev to his own realm, Kaklok, the divine world of crows. There, Kakraj introduced Shani Dev to his mother. Filled with compassion, she welcomed Shani with maternal affection and said, "My son, live here. Consider this your true home." For the first time, Shani Dev, who had faced rejection, fire, and pain, was embraced as a son. With gratitude, he agreed to stay in Kaklok. Time passed, and in Kaklok, Shani Dev devoted himself to penance, meditation, and discipline. Kakraj and his mother cared for him like family. But soon, news reached Indradev that Shani Dev was living in Kaklok and that his strength was continuously growing. Fearing that this rising power might become a threat to the heavens, Indradev became restless. One day, while Shani Dev and Kakraj were away, Indradev seized the opportunity. He attacked Kaklok with his forces. In this merciless assault, countless innocent crows were killed. The greatest loss came when Kakraj's mother, who had loved and cared for Shani Dev as her own child, was slain in the battle. When Shani Dev and Kakraj returned, they were shaken by the devastation. Kakraj's heart wept in grief, while Shani Dev's heart blazed with fury. His eyes burned like fire, his lips fell silent, and within him erupted a volcano of vengeance. Shani Dev gave half of his power to Kakraj and mounted him. Together, they soared into the sky like a storm and headed toward Swagalok. At the time, in the heavens, Indra and the other gods were rejoicing with music and soma. Suddenly, a thunderous roar echoed across the skies. All eyes turned to see Shani Dev riding on Kakraj was approaching like a dark storm. His very presence shook Swagalok. The gods armed themselves, preparing for battle. But as soon as Shani Dev stepped into Swagalok, the fierce energy of his cursed gaze had already weakened them. From his eyes blazed fire, and with that, Indra and the other gods fell to the ground powerless, unable even to lift their weapons.
Shani Dev showed no mercy and began to attack the gods with their own weapons. The heavenly realm turned into a battlefield, and Indra along with the other gods had to flee in fear, disappearing to save themselves. Terrified, the gods began calling out only one name. "Suryadev, protect us!" They all went to Suryadev and pleaded, "O radiant Lord, please stop your son Shanidev, otherwise all the worlds will sink into darkness." Hearing this, Suryadev entered the heavens. His light and aura once again illuminated the skies. Suryadev said to Shanidev, "My son, give up this anger, end this war." But Shanidev firmly refused. He replied, "When injustice was done, no one came forward. Now it is time for justice." Suryadev then attacked Shanidev with his blazing rays, but Shanidev destroyed them midway with the power of his sight. Then Shanidev cast his fierce gaze upon Suryadev. At once, the brilliance of Suryadev faded. His golden radiance turned dim and dark. The rays of the sun weakened and the entire universe was covered in thick darkness. Stars and galaxies lost their shine, and creation itself seemed to stop. Even Suryadev had to withdraw from the heavenly realm. The gods with the little strength left in them somehow reached Mount Kailash on earth. Falling at the feet of Lord Mahadev, they narrated everything with tears in their eyes. Lord Mahadev first scolded the gods for their pride, injustice and wrong actions. But then, understanding their pain, he assured them that he would soon restore balance in the heavens and return their powers. After this, Mahadev sent a group of his Shivganas along with the gods to the heavenly realm. There they challenged Shanidev to battle. Shanidev appeared calm and serious. Without anger, he accepted the challenge. A fierce war began. With his gaze and power, Shanidev quickly made the Shivaganas powerless. They fell to the ground like lifeless statues. Next, with his terrible sight, Shanidev made Indradev and Suryadev faint. Instantly, the other gods, terrified by this sight, disappeared from the heavens in fear. Shanidev then took the crown of Indradev, declaring his authority. He imprisoned both Indradev and Suryadev in the heavenly prison. Some gods like Agnidev and Varundev escaped and returned to Kailash. There, they begged Lord Mahadev to personally come and put an end to Shanidev's rule. Hearing this, Lord Mahadev closed his eyes for a moment, and in the very next instant, he vanished. Meanwhile, in the heavens, Shanidev had established complete rule. He was preparing to give severe punishment to Indradev and Suryadev when suddenly a divine storm shook the skies. A wave of powerful energy spread everywhere, and then Lord Mahadev himself appeared. When Mahadev saw that Shanidev had taken full control of the heavens, imprisoned Indradev and Suryadev, and driven the other gods into hiding, he ordered Shanidev, "Stop this at once. Free the heavens." But Shanidev, who had suffered insult, neglect and injustice for so long, stood with his head bowed and yet refused to obey. Mahadev spoke sternly, "If you cross the limits of justice, then battle will be the only solution." Hearing this, Shanidev trembled. Sensing the immense power of Lord Mahadev, in fear he made a grave mistake. He cast his intense gaze directly upon Mahadev. But this was Mahadev, the Lord of all, the Supreme. He slightly opened his third eye. Just a spark of energy from it was so powerful that Shanidev was struck down and fell from the heavens towards the earth. As Shanidev fainted, the gods regained their powers. Falling to the earth, Shanidev crashed through trees and finally landed on a peepal tree, severely injured. It seemed as though his end was near. Yet after some time, he regained consciousness. Realizing the greatness and grace of Mahadev, Shanidev, lying helpless on the peepal tree, went into deep meditation. So weak that he could not even blink his eyes, he still remained in unbroken penance for years. Finally, pleased with his devotion and steadfastness, Lord Mahadev appeared before him. Impressed by Shanidev's courage, discipline and commitment to justice, Mahadev lifted him from the peepal tree and placed him in the skies, fully healed and radiant once again. Lord Mahadev gave him a divine trident and established a special realm called Shanilok, where Shanidev would judge the actions of all beings based on justice. In the presence of all the gods, Mahadev declared Shanidev as the Lord of Justice and the supreme judge of the universe. Witnessing this, Indradev, Suryadev and the others deeply regretted their past behavior. Especially Suryadev, who felt immense sorrow for the injustice and neglect done to his son. As repentance, Suryadev went to earth, sought forgiveness from Devi Chaya and respectfully brought her back to Suryalok. From then on, love and respect once again filled the solar family. This story shows that the path of justice may be very difficult, but in the end, truth, patience and devotion lead a person to greatness, and Shanidev is the finest example of this.